this is our time. This is our time where we're going to be able to talk about our marriages. We believe that marriage is a ministry. In Scripture, it is one of the most sacred things right up there with when God ordained the end of creation. He said it is very good. He called that day sacred. God calls his name sacred. And one of the most sacred things in God's realm, and it's his realm, is our marriages. And so we believe there should always be, even if it's not an official title, it's a marriage ministry. Is that a good way of saying it?
Perfect.
Awesome. I thought you were going to say something. Say, no, that's not what it means. But yes, but I want to say thank you. And look, it's as we go through this time, it's been a great journey for us. It's been a challenging journey. When I say great, I don't mean like everything's been going like fun, joy. But just hearing a lot of things, but God has been faithful for every challenge. There's been a way to either grieve and move on, or there's been a way to move on and learn or comfort.
Yep.
And so here in New York City, I know it's all of us, but in New York City, it's been pretty intense with things adding on here and there. We've been learning a lot as well. And if you're like us, the issue has been, there are things that seem to keep happening that we can't predict. And lately, there's obviously a whole new layer with the racial hatred and chaos, the murder, and then the debates therein in terms of responses to that murder that have been going on, that are, and then of course the rioting. And so, across headlines, now it's funny, we thought we had it figured out, right? We thought we had okay, this is the parameters, COVID-19, that's it. And now it's like keeps expanding. So now we got unrest, we got rioting, we got things like this going on. And then with all of it, okay, now, summer's here and we are ready to do what?
Open up the city.
We are ready to open up. We want to get out there, but at the same time,
you have to be safe.
That anxiety is there. And I think Johnny put it best when I was asking him just what his thoughts were. He said that we are in a tricky time. There's a way to describe it. It's a tricky time in that on one hand, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern, a lot of hurt, a lot of fear, just outright on the outside world. And then on the other hand, it's for some of us, it's just we are ready to get out. We're ready to move on. We are so done with all of this stuff. And then right in the middle, nevertheless, we are God's people. You, the Jersey ministry, and every God-fearing, Christ-centered person in that ministry and in this world, we are the essential workers. One thing about, and I was talking to Pam about this, essential workers, that phrase has come up. A lot of people have been thinking about their careers. And essential workers, and when I say essential, it's everything from doctors and EMS workers, all the way to the people who keep our groceries going, keep us fed, keep our power lines up, and keep us going, have three qualities that I think they all share. One, essential workers restore what's been damaged, what's been taken away, what's been somehow twisted or perverted. They restore it. Their job is to keep things going. Essential workers protect. Whatever's there already, they're there to protect it, whether it's life itself or whether it's, like we said, our supply lines of things. And essential workers always build up.
Yeah.
When an essential worker is present, things are better than when they started. And that's the same for and it's funny, my neighbor next door, his name is Mark.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention his name because I want him to see this. He's an EMS worker, and he was telling me he's on the front lines. He's the guy running into situations. And, his goal was to protect life, was to be able to build up and to help begin that process of restoring people back to health. Mm-hmm. Now imagine if an essential worker didn't really know what their role was, how important they really were. Imagine if an essential worker kind of goes into a real bad neighborhood or a real bad situation, and he's going and he's ready to save a life, and then he goes, "Oh man, is that the new Hyundai? I was looking at that." And you start kicking the tires and they're like, or he's going along and then he sees that, man, hey, they opened up Burger King, and then he stops and he goes with so on. Or he gets there and he's on his way to rescue somebody's life, and he sees another situation where maybe somebody needs some help, and he stops where he's supposed to be going, and he's distracted with a good thing, but he's distracted. We would all agree that that would not be good, that would be something, he's missing something. Guys, we are the essential workers for this world.
Yes.
Satan has done a job on this world, and the whole idea of our Christianity, whole idea of us being disciples, is not to be the people who have the right doctrine, but it's to be the people that shine in the damage as the essential workers. We are the ones who make that biggest difference. And so I wanted to encourage us on that note about who we are. We have come to restore, we have come to protect, and then we have come to build up. And that's what it's really all about. And so if you think about it, I would like you to look in John chapter 10. I'm going to share these words briefly, and I want us to dive right in. And Pam's going to be diving right in, right that goes with it. In John chapter 10 and verse 7.
Let me read it.
Pam, you want to read that?
Therefore said Jesus, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full.
Jesus is looking, and you are part of that partnership. As the salt and the light of our families, salt and light of our neighborhoods, our marriages are really kind of our first ministry. That has always been my conviction. That before you have any other ministry in the church, if you're in the marriage covenant, that is your first ministry. And as Jesus is partnering, he's looking for people to go into this creation. He doesn't want us to be either passive or panicked.
Right.
He wants us to be able to keep our focus, man. This is what we are here to do.
Yeah.
It looks real different depending on the context and depending on your spouse.
It's true.
But we are here to do it. This is something we've done before, but I think it's always bears reminding. We have all married a particular set of problems for the rest of our lives. What I'd like you to do in a moment is to simply to turn to your husband, turn to your wife, and with a smile on your face, repeat after me. Ready? If you could turn to your spouse. And together. I have married a particular set of problems for the rest of my life. And I love it. That is probably the biggest truth about what our first ministry is about. Because look, we're both sinful.
Yep.
We both got issues. But God is calling us to be able to restore, to protect, and build up that woman. Restore, protect, and build up that man. And it's a great work. It's a great work even in the middle of all this. So look, some scriptures to get us grounded in this. Because I think this is a big theme. To restore, if you look in Genesis 24 and verse 67. Genesis 24 and verse 67. If Pam, you could read that one?
Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
You know, when we get married, our role, in essence, no matter how much the world has beat us up or beats us up day to day, and we know we get beat up, no matter what, our marriages are the place when we come with our spouse, we get a chance to restore what the world has taken away.
Yes.
Just by comforting. One thing that I found, this is wild. We use the word comfort it can kind of almost have negative. We say the comfort, get out your comfort zone. Pam is in a comfort zone. Right? And it's true, but it's funny. The root of the word comfort actually means to strengthen in English. I think it comes from Italian or French. And it's the same way you say fortitude, fortress. It's strength. So comforting means you do what it takes to really to get stronger. That relationship, just as it was back then for Isaac, when he lost his mother, that marriage relationship, as he bonded with Rebekah, that was an example of a comfort in his loss. And that is our role with that man or that woman in your, like I said, your one-on-one ministry. You wanted to share something with that?
Yeah, just keeping that in mind, making sure that in your marriage you have a place where you can talk and get the comfort that you need, or talk and give the comfort that is needed. To not be so busy from day to day that we don't take that personal time to say, how was things going with you, to
Today,
listen.
yes.
Right. I know I lost my aunt in the middle of COVID, and it was one of those things that doesn't hit you every day, but on the days that it did hit me, it helped that Antoine and I have a place to talk, and he was able to comfort, to build me up, to help me get stronger and strengthened in my walk and my faith and my strength as I was grieving my aunt.
Absolutely. And look, it means being able to be available. It means being able to be responsive and engaged. Because this is definitely a time where, like I said, we're either panicked or we're kind of like, just sort of going along with the flow. Is that we really got to make that time so that we can keep our attention, that realize that we have a lot to comfort with each other with. We really need to be able to give that towards one another. And being responsive, looking for the requests that we can fill with our spouse to make this time go better it's powerful, powerful, powerful time. Also, look, we've got to protect life in the same way that Isaac was comforted. One of the other qualities of being comforted is that it enhances and protects what's most essential. If you look in 1 Peter in chapter 3 and in verse 7, 1 Peter and in chapter 3 and verse 7, it reads, Pam, you can read that for me?
Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. Treat them with respect as the weaker party and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Okay,
I'm gonna say it now. Some people know that's definitely not normal or politically correct to say the weaker what? Like the weaker part. What do you see weaker partner means? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I don't think weaker means feeble, unable, inadequate.
Okay.
I think that the weaker partner being God has set up the household in a way. I know physically we are weaker, although some women will debate that. Men are, upper body strength is stronger than us, so in that way we are weaker. But I think that God has set an order for how the household should run. And I think that as a woman, biblically, we submit to the leadership of our husbands. And so to me, that's a different role. So that's how I see it.
Okay. All right. So look, whatever your view of what that means, please don't right now. Know some people are going to do arm wrestling. Like, okay, we want to see who's weaker. But whatever that means, one of the things that's really wild, Peter says that we've got to live with our wives by being considerate, by having the kind of knowledge where we really think about them. We fill our mind with enough information to know how we can meet their needs. We protect them because we know who they are. Part of being married, and I think the principle goes both ways, that, man, we've got to really protect that. Look, there are emotions being hit, especially with this incident, with this murder, with this injustice, that is hitting nerves that haven't even been hit with the COVID-19. And we've got to protect our spouses. We've got to be available to hear them. We've got to be available to comfort them. We've got to be available to protect their hearts by just knowing what that spouse, what your husband, what your wife is going to need to be able to be okay, and to be attentive. An example of what not to do. I'll give you an example. One of the things that this week I was getting up, trying to be disciplined with my reading, and Pam had an ailment, not an ailment, but she wasn't feeling the best. And she thought she had something in the house. And it turned out that she didn't, and she wanted to get it. And so as I'm reading, she goes, man, we don't have any more what this product is. And you know what I did? I went, no, I don't think we do. And that's all I did. And only later, what were you going to, what was the...
So he was dressed. So in my mind...
I was dressed.
He was dressed. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, he's going to go to the store and pick up what we needed because I'm not feeling well. And he was totally engrossed in what he was doing and reading. And so, you know, me being the good disciple thinking, oh, yeah, but he is reading. It's his time with God. So I'm going to let it go. But when I was at the store and I was walking back with those heavy bags, my heart went to, wow, I just wish that he had, you know, noticed the need. And I wanted to feel protected. Like, my wife is sick, that I will stop and I'll take care of her. And so when I got home, I fixed everything. But later I had to go back and I had to be vulnerable and say, Antoine, you know, it would have been nice if you had paid attention that I needed something. And because I wasn't feeling well, if you had done it. So, yeah, we got through that, though.
Yes, I apologize again. I look back and I go, okay, what was I thinking? But, guys, protecting our wives takes an intentional mind effort. It's got to be intentional. We've got to think. Whatever we hear on CNN, whatever we see in the streets, whatever we're feeling, if we're anxious, if we're stressed about our position in life, guess what? So is your spouse. And we've got to be able to consider and know, how is all this affecting them? How can I serve them that would help? And that just takes brain time. But as we comfort, we got to be able to protect our spouses. Brothers, I want to think of it this way. Every interruption from your wife, picture it as a gentle tap on the shoulder from God.
Wow.
Think of interruptions. Every time you get that, what? As like God gently going, just trying to get your attention. That will help. That's something I've been thinking of. So now I'm going to think, let me look for interruptions, because that's God giving me a gentle tap on the shoulder.
It's funny you would say interruptions, because I'm reading through the book of Matthew, and in the commentary, it talks a lot about how Jesus was interrupted, that the blind man yelling, Jesus, Son of God, he interrupted Jesus. Jesus was going to heal the rich ruler's daughter, and the woman interrupted. And so Jesus treated interruptions as opportunities to heal.
Absolutely.
He didn't get annoyed and irritated, like, why? Why are you bothering me? He turned and said, what was the need? And he met it. So it's funny that you would use interruptions.
Yeah, it's a big spiritual truth. Jesus exemplified that because he knew what his mission was. So you couldn't really interrupt him if it's about his business.
Right.
Now, if you want to tap Jesus on the shoulder and say, hey, want to go watch the soccer game? Okay, then, yeah, that's an interruption. But other than that, that wasn't. And guys, right up to that, we got to make sure that we build up. Essential workers always leave the situation better than where they started. Essential workers make a difference. They build up. The thief, Satan, like I said, as a thief, he definitely kills, he steals, he kills, and he destroys, right? Satan ultimately is angry at mankind's position with God and on this earth.
Right.
And he will do whatever it takes to defame and to crush it. Kind of a in your face to God and in your face to spirituality. But one of the qualities is he obviously wants to pull things down that are good. We, as essential workers, we build up the world. In a billion ways, one of the ways, in building up that man or that woman that God has given you. If you look in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 29. Ephesians 4 and verse 29.
Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen.
The bottom line is, we have control over what we say.
Yes.
We do not have control direct over 90% of our emotions. You can feel deep boredom, deep resentment. You could feel deep anxiety,
Yep.
and still decide what comes out of these lips is going to be something that's going to build my wife up. It's going to build my husband up. If it's not going to build them up, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we have that ability. God has given us that choice. And I think that as disciples, the Holy Spirit wants to manifest that.
The fruits of the Spirit.
So our tongues, and you could read through the book of James with the power of the tongue, is key in our marriages. Choosing our words to build up, especially now, it's big. In other words, one of the most powerful tools for that, most powerful, is gratitude.
Yep.
And you wanted to share about gratitude.
Yeah. So, perspective, right? So during COVID, going in, I could be nitpicky, right? I could be like, why is Antoine smacking so loud? Why is he walking like that? Why is he making so much noise, right? I could go into 100 things. But since COVID, I've been really I've been really changing my perspective, right? And thinking about how I think about Antoine. And one of the things is I'm being grateful and being thankful and thinking thankful things, because I have personally a friend who lost her husband. And then I have another friend whose husband went into the hospital during COVID. So Andy Finity was sharing last week about a woman who they said was, with a bunch of girls, and she was laughing. And the women were like, why are you laughing at the things that your husband doing? And she said, because my husband could not be here. And so with Antoine, that has totally changed my mindset. That I'm not going to complain about him not picking up his clothes because he could not be here. I'm not going to complain about him smacking because I could be eating by myself. I'm not going to complain about, him moving slow because he could not be here. And it's a reality to me. And it's unfortunately taken COVID for me to get to that place of I'm only going to build up. When I wake up in the morning, I told Antoine this. I smile at God. I check that Antoine's here. And I said, thank you. The three of us get to do this today. It's just a different mindset. The reality that we're missed, the reality that people are here today and gone tomorrow has hit me. And so every day I have been trying very hardly to make sure each day, if Antoine's not here tomorrow or I'm not here, we had a good time.
Absolutely. And look, thank you. I want to encourage you. Please build your spouse up, but you got to think that through, what that's going to mean. And as Christians, one thing that you have in your ministry, you have each other.
Yep.
You have a ton of wisdom, experience, spirituality, conviction all around you to get the help, to get the input. If there's any point that you can have a weakness, one of the most amazing things, and I find it generally a truth that's biblical and you can see it, that the Spirit of God will always equip somebody with what we need to grow. So in your marriage, wherever you are, my encouragement is make sure you find, man, who can I look to as an example? Who can I look to for some input or just some encouragement, even if things are going really tough, to make sure, again, an essential worker is no good if they're not okay. An essential worker can't help anybody else if they feel like they need help. So we want to make sure our needs are met as men, of course, and as women, so that we can give to our spouses. So please restore, give, and protect life and build one another up. Something I want to give in terms of this, some practicals that I would like us to be able to do. And soon we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I'm going to give you some questions to discuss, but directly related to what we just looked at. But I want to throw a little bit of my training in that I think would be helpful. You may have heard of one of the big things. Well, one of the reasons this is challenging is something called negativity bias. What is negativity bias?
Negativity bias is our tendency to give greater attention and weight to negative information.
It is in our DNA. It's the way our brains work. Is if we tend to attach to the negative faster, longer, and stronger than we do to positive or good things. It's the reason why Paul had to do Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true. It's that because we're negative. That's just we are. And so if you're a CNN junkie, you've been fed a steady stream of negative. Or just in your life, there's been a lot of things that have been scary, not good. So that can affect us. That can affect definitely our marriages. And we want to make sure that we have things in place to get that negativity bias there. I want to read one example of how it can be. It says, Rick has noticed that his relationship with his wife seems different since Jamie left and came back from a week-long visit to her mother's. Visiting her mom is something Jamie does only once a year, but Rick insists this time it's different. See if you can catch what happened. Jamie didn't respond to a couple of Rick's text messages while she was away. She didn't answer her phone one night when he called at the time they agreed on. Since she's been back, she seems quieter. And a few nights went to bed early. Rick now believes that Jamie has been distancing herself from him. Married couples need to be careful not to draw negative conclusions about their relationship before carefully assessing all the facts. A premature negative assessment of your marriage may set you up for unnecessary conflict, dissatisfaction, and even the D word, divorce. After a month of suspecting Jamie was giving up on their marriage, Rick confronted her. After Jamie failed to answer, Rick, when he called her in the kitchen from another room in the house. If you don't love me anymore, why can't you just tell me instead of shutting me out? Rick said angrily. What are you talking about? Jamie answered. He started listing her offenses. You just ignored me when I called you from the other room. You didn't return my text when you were at your mother's. You didn't answer my phone call. You've been going to bed without me. What is this about? I didn't hear you from the other room, Jamie explained. The dishwasher was making too much noise. As for the other incidents on Rick's list of offenses, it turns out Jamie's phone battery had died a few times when she was away at her mother's, and she couldn't get to her charger right away. The nights she went to bed early, she had to get up early the next day to make it to early meetings with her business-related clients. That is an example of how negativity bias can creep in insidiously. One of the most powerful goals is what Pam just shared is gratitude. Gratitude. Training our brains for gratitude. I want to give you this challenge. If you have a pen, I would suggest you could write this down. And this is the suggestion. A practice called catch, think, and share. Catch, think, and share. Catch your spouse doing something right. What does that mean?
That means watch them throughout the day and really make a mental note about how are they doing, what are they doing, and if it's positive, keep it in your head.
Yeah, if it's positive, keep it in your head. It doesn't have to be directly related to you. The fact that they get up every day, and if they're working, getting up and going to work, the fact that they cook, the fact that they interact, whatever they do, catch them. Like, look for it. Go out looking for good. Like it's your agenda for the day, right? Second phase, think. Here's some great questions. As you caught them doing some good things, fill this up. Man, I really appreciate and I value this in my life because. Now you may say, am I telling this to my wife? Not yet. Or my husband? But you got to let that meditate in your head. Think why you appreciate that particular act or quality and why it's so good in your life, why it's good to have that in your life. You may say, well, what's the point of all that thinking? Because we've got to let things get into our minds.
Positive.
It's got to marinate. It's like meat. If you're a barbecue person, I know some of you are barbecue people, you don't just sprinkle some stuff on the surface and throw it on a grill. You let that thing marinate overnight. You let it sit for a day and soak in everything. You got to let good soak in and marinate. And so think it through. Just sit quietly. Those of you who do journaling with your times with God, it'd be a great journal thing to do. And then finally, share throughout the day at least once. Just share what you noticed. It doesn't have to be a big production. It can be something that's done, as you're over dinner, as you're passing in the hallway, as you're just talking on the phone. Just share it with them. Point it out, what you've caught. Point out what you thought about, and give it. And that's why you want it to be sincere. Go.
I got one. So Antoine put this down for the activity for us to do, and I had to really think. So I came up with one. All right. So.
Oh, this is good.
All right, Antoine. I really appreciate that you get up in the morning at 9 and you get up in the morning on your routine, and you go outside and you pray, and you read your Bible and you study your Bible. I really appreciate that because it helps you to be a man of God with deep convictions. And nobody has to tell you to do it. Nobody has to be on you about it. And I love seeing your love for God and the way you express it in your times of reading your Bible and how you're so consistent. And so I wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you. That was nice. That was good. I didn't expect that, by the way. That was cool. So look, now my head's going to be like this. It's just so big. But guys, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Now, again, ironically, as encouraged as I was, that really was more for Pam in a sense. It was more for those who are doing the catching, the thinking, and the sharing. Go.
The saying it part is the hard part for me. I don't know about other people, but I'll think about things Antoine do that's good. I'll think about things and how I can't do without it. Like the other day, my daughter and I cleaned out the shed, and we had all these bags of garbage. And Antoine cleaned away, took all the bags, put them out, packed it up, and put it on the sidewalk for the garbage pickup the next day. And I thought to myself, whew, thank God he's here, because I would have to have done that work, right? But I didn't say it. I thought it, right? And that happens all the time. So I'm trying to get better at saying the things to Antoine that I think about that he does that are beneficial, right? That would build him up.
Awesome. Thank you. And guys, my second encouragement is, remember, choose to focus on your values together. Couples who choose to focus on their beliefs, their values, their goals, and their dreams that they share in common develop a sense of we-ness. When they tell their story, it's about what's important to them. In other words, when we go through really trying times on any level, it's a great opportunity to figure out what's really important.
Right.
And what's really important, not just to me individually, but what's important to us. This family, the Lee household, the Johnson household, I just grabbed the name, but whatever your household is, it's the times to have talks with each other. Look, as we're looking at this news, over all of this, the horrific things going on across the U.S. and that the atrocity that was done, this is a great time to talk about what you two value in your marriage, what the views, individual views, but man, how we can respond to this as a married couple. Somebody said, who's the Johnson family? I just grabbed it. Yeah, I bet you there's Johnsons out there. But this is the time to build. Hard times get you a chance to really figure out, where do I stand?
Yep.
What's important to us?
Yeah.
A lot of things were trivial. This is what's important to us. And you can build a sense of we-ness. And you could also think about, man, where do we want to go? What are our dreams? Me and my wife, me and my husband, where do we want to be in 7 years? In light of everything that's happened, where do we want to be? What lifestyle do we want to be able to have? And so I have some questions for us. I would love us to be able to have in our breakout rooms to think about. And so what I suggest is somebody if you can write these down, maybe one spouse can write them down so you can just have them. But here are the 3 questions. I'd like you to, in the breakout rooms, grab a couple and share them. I'm gonna give you some quick guidelines. First question is, One thing I appreciate the most about my husband and wife is. One thing I appreciate the most about my husband/wife is.
And then our, not just yours, but like as a couple, our philosophy to get through hard times has been. Our philosophy to get through hard times has been.
And 3, what stood out the most from this brief devotional to you? What stood out the most from all that we shared to you? And I want to encourage you, one, use I statements. With the exception of the first, the I appreciate part, number 1, I want to encourage you, when you think about 2 and 3, use I statements. What stood out to me the most was I struggle with yada, 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 yada. I would really love to grow in, so forth and so on. Avoid you as if it's a bad word and focus in on I. Of course, with the exception of what you appreciate. Secondly, some of us talk a lot. Some of us don't like to talk much at all. What I want you to do is to be able to keep your sharing to like about a minute, because, but it'll be you and your wife. And some will be back and forth, depending on that thing. Mm-hmm. But, you want to give enough time out of consideration and respect for the people who are quieter. So you want to give them time to make sure everybody shares, because we'll only be about 10 minutes. And you could talk for that time just about anything else that comes to your heart. But one powerful thing, and I'm going to repeat, I statements. Use you if you're encouraging. If you're trying to do something that's challenging, focus more on you. Let me encourage everyone at this time, please sit with your spouse and take a look at these questions and discuss them. Even though this was originally intended for a Zoom meeting, this is a great time to process everything that we've heard today. So again, from both Pam and myself, we thank you and look forward to our next time together.
Thank you.